Anésia Cauaçu, was she the bandit Lampio's first love? Anésia Cauaçu, a brave woman who at the beginning of the 20th century fought capoeira with dexterity, drank spiced drips while standing at the counters of wineries, smoked a clay pipe, shot so well that she managed to cut off the fingers of her enemies at a distance of 100 meters, galloped like wind and was the first woman from Bahia to wear long pants to ride horses. He danced in candomblé yards, receiving Iança, a warrior ouriça. It existed before Maria Bonita, in Jequié, Sorteio Bahia. But with a difference, Maria Bonita joined the gang and Anésia created a gang. Her story is told by Professor Domingos Ailton, from Faculdade Zacarias Goes, in Bahia. He narrates Anésia's life in a book based on the press of the time, on testimonials, and also uses fictional fiction, which makes it difficult to separate the real from the popular imagination. Like Lampio, Silvino, Sinho Pereira and the other cangaceiros, the Bahian Anésia Adelaide de Araujo entered this dangerous life, strictly male, to avenge the unjust death of a relative in 1917. 13 years before Maria Bonita followed Lampio. Coming from a family of tough merchants and farmers, Anésia learned early on to draw and fight capoeira with a dagger. Even with this macho profile, this remarkable woman was a pretty and communicative girl, very white, tall, with long black hair and blue eyes the color of the sky. All these predicates enchanted the philandering peddler Afonso Silva. They met on a rainy afternoon during a St. Joseph procession. The sympathy was reciprocal and shortly afterwards they were married and had a daughter, Lucinha. Afonso liked his wife's style and supported her purpose in fighting for justice and revenge in the fight between the Mocos and Rabutos families, and never for money. Meanwhile, Anésia's fame grew by word of mouth and through string. She began to take the pain of the wronged, especially defenseless women. There were beatings on the men, strong slaps on the faces, capoeira blows that left everyone on the ground scared. I managed to shoot backwards, in pursuit with enemies, including the police. Didn't miss one. The then governor of Bahia, Antonio Muniz, concerned about the actions of the Caucasus, which he classified as a Sertania conflagration, especially with Anésia, who led the group of cangaceiros formed by uncles, brothers and relatives causing havoc in the trade in the region, sent 240 police to fight the Caucasus. And it was in vain. Anésia became a Cangaco muse and more courageous than Dada, a woman from Carisco who even commanded confrontations with the police, and her fame grew every day along with the collective imagination. They said that at the time of combat, she involtava herself, dematerialized, transforming herself into a stump or a tree, through strong prayers and a patua that she wore around her neck. The people increase, but do not invent, they said. The Caucasus made legend in Chapada Diamantina. Anésia stayed in Cangaco for 6 years and then went to live with her husband and daughter under the protection of the landowner Isaias Galvio, who owed favors to the Caucasus. But he couldn't resist Colonel Paulo Bispo's proposal to offer 300,000 reis for Anésia's whereabouts. She was arrested and never heard from again. Anésia did not live up to its name of Greek origin and which means rest. However, the fame of the brave Sertania symbol remained. Made history. The Caucasus were traders and farmers. Farmers, possessing some capital, with many heads of cattle, were always highly regarded in Jequié, Brejo Grande, Conquista Maracas, Amargosa and Boa Nova, negotiating with the main firms in the Bahian hinterland, having a lot of credit and good concept. The Cauassu made a legend in a vast region that begins in Chapada Diamantina and reaches the Caatinga of Jequié, Maracas, and surroundings, where since the 19th century they have stood out for their courage and bravery. In our region, the part of the family that lived here as peaceful farmers and goat and cattle breeders ended up being pushed into the armed struggle, when one of its members was murdered at the behest of Zezinho dos Lacos, a character who terrorized the region for several decades. Anésia was a Cauassu of fiber. Tall, slender, with blue eyes, she didn't have the profile of a cangaceira. Married, mother of at least one daughter, she found herself involved in the struggles that followed against the gang of Zezinho dos Laços, Marcionilio and Tranquilino Souza, in addition to the police itself. He saw his parents and brothers die, as well as several members of his gang. He also saw his mother being arrested and tortured, even though he never fell down. In the fights he was involved in, he soon acquired a reputation as an excellent marksman, with better aim than the men in the band, capable of hitting the finger of a soldier who was pointing his commanders in the direction where the Cauassus were, more than 300 meters away. Anésia was arrested in 1916 and then released. Around 1930, as far as we know, he lived in the region of Ilhéus. There is no information about the date of his death or what would have happened to his daughter. Zezinho dos Laços was killed in an ambush prepared by the Cauassus. Banditry in the Jequié region suffered a sharp decline after the 1930 revolution, with the arrests of Marcionilio and his son Tranquilizo Souza. Captain Silvino de Araujo, who sometimes fought against Marcionilio's men and, at other times, against the Cauassus themselves, for supporting the movement of 30, received the graces of the revolutionary government. For her part, Anésia went down in history as a unique figure of a woman, mother and warrior. Its historical importance expands over time.